Hi everybody, welcome to another wrap up of Voting Yogis. This week was dedicated to the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and what we try to do with Voting Yogis is really take philosophy, yoga philosophy, and be able to connect it into not just our yoga practice, but our on the mat, but our yoga practice off of the mat, just how we plan on living, yes, for the rest of our lives, but especially in these next several weeks, which are sure to be trying, and in which we have so much energy that we really are going to need to output. So what we try to do is take care of ourselves here in this place, learn a little bit more about how the wisdom of yoga can help us as we really move to try to make meaningful change on election day. So when I consider the life and legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, no doubt she, changed my life. I mean, I own a home. She was one of the truest champions for women, in modern United States. And so when I think about her life and I think about what kind of yoga wisdom could apply to her life, what stood out to me the most was Ahimsa. And Ahimsa is a Yama, which is essentially one of the ethical rules in yoga. And Ahimsa means non-violence or non-harming. And that sounds like a fairly easy rule to follow, right? Hey, I didn't hit anybody today. Hey, I didn't, hurt somebody today. Most of us, I think, can go through and check that one off of our list. But when we really expand it to that non-harming addition and really look at our lives and see how the decisions that we make affect other people, that's when the scales of justice really kind of come into play. Having to balance two good things or balance different ideas and different opinions, and eventually, figure out what it is that will hurt less people. And I think that is, what she has done as a justice in the Supreme Court. Now, these scales, I have to say, they're one of my prized possessions. I got them at a antique store in New Harmony, Indiana, probably about 25, 30 bucks, like 14 years ago. And so, but I love them. And, they just represent so much. They represent so much to me in my career, but they also represent so much. They represent that balance that we have to find in justice, but also the balance that we have to find in yoga and the balance we have to find in our lives. And so a little bit more about Ahimsa. Mahatma Gandhi said that Ahimsa is the highest duty. He said, even if we cannot practice it in full, we must try to understand its spirit and refrain as far as humanly possible from violence. And again, like I said, it's not really that easy, not when you consider harm. So I take, for example, this very class. I mean, if you're watching this video, if you've participated in a Voting Yogis class, or really almost any of my classes, I have a very strong belief that yoga should be accessible and available and affordable, and that anybody who needs yoga, which I think are a lot of the people who have the least access to it, should be able to have it. And while that sounds well and good, there are people that process kind of hurts, and that is a lot of other yoga teachers who are trying to make a living being a yoga teacher. And so just having these free classes can potentially make it harder for them to find new students or find students to charge. And then you go a little bit deeper in the problem with that. And one of them, and I'm definitely a benefit from this, but a lot of yoga studios have teacher training programs, and there are far more yoga teachers that turn out in Indianapolis each year, as there are really good paying spots and yoga jobs in studios, which makes it practically impossible to be able to live, make a full-time living in yoga, at least not with really having to put a lot of different pieces together. And but you know, it's not just a matter of, you know, yoga studios and having these training sessions, which are, you know, profitable, but it's also that it's hard to be a business owner right now. You know, it's almost impossible to have health insurance and own a small business. A small business is going to pay way higher percentage in taxes than Amazon. And so you see how the process of Ahimsa kind of just keeps moving up and up and up the line. And so that's how we really, you know, hopefully not have to deliberate every single decision that we make in each of our lives, but that's how complicated that Ahimsa can be. And what it also sounds like is a bit of a trial, you know, find what is the balance, you know, where do we find the fairness between everybody should have access to yoga, and you know, but that you might be hurting the paychecks of yoga instructors. And so it's difficult. So that's part of the reason why I have been asking everybody to donate to an organization or volunteer to an organization here, just to try to you know, create a manageable cost for that. So that's how I try to make up that Ahimsa in this practice and this yoga session personally. But you can see, if you add this concept of Ahimsa to literally almost any policy, you know, whether, you know, and really think about, you know, who it's hurting, who it's not hurting. You know, if every policy was good for everybody, then you know, politics wouldn't be near so nasty. But it's kind of this constant struggle, and that is why we practice. So the way for us to be able to incorporate Ahimsa, incorporate trying to bring this justice into our life, is to practicing our balance. And one of the things that I love about balance in yoga is that it's not necessarily about looking like a pretzel but being on one leg while you do it, or looking like a pretzel on just one hand. I love noticing and feeling connected with the balance that my body tries to make, just holding me in some very primary positions. You know, our bodies want to keep us centered, our bodies want to keep us balancing. And so just noticing and honoring the little changes that our bodies make as we move through this practice, and, you know, let that remind us of the deliberation and the incredible justice to women and you know, really the entire United States that Ruth Bader Ginsburg deliberated on and weighed, and ultimately, you know, delivered, ultimately found a place that was a win-win, you know, or where the scales were even. And so that's what we'll try to do in this maybe 5-minute practice. I always say that it always ends up being about 7 or 8 minutes. So we're going to try to find a little bit of balance, nothing too challenging, I hope. And I'm going to go ahead and stand up, and I'd invite you to join me. If you've been busy today, maybe you've already been on your feet a lot, but if you've been sitting down, this might be a nice chance to stretch. So we're going to just start. Sorry, dog hair. We're just going to start looking down at our feet and really grounding our feet into the floor. I like to rock back and forth a little bit. And then we'll bring our hands out to the side. I like to wiggle my fingers just to feel a little bit more alive. From here, we'll close our eyes. We'll connect to our breath, just standing right here. Maybe noticing already the little adjustments our body's making to keep us standing, keeping us safe and secure in this posture. And then with our next inhale, we're gonna lift our arms up to the ceiling, looking at our fingertips. As we exhale, we're gonna bend over to one side, bringing our arms to one side as if we're one big C shape. Staying connected with our breath, breathing in through our nose and out through our nose. Just noticing the changes our body's making to keep us upright, even as we bend over. Inhaling back through center and exhaling to the opposite side. Once again, staying connected with our breath, but noticing what our body is doing, keeping us up. As we inhale, we'll come back through center. And as we exhale, we're gonna swan dive forward. From here, you can grab your elbows. We're just gonna stay here for a second. Release your head, release your neck. And on our next inhale, we'll slowly roll up, stacking one vertebrae on top of the next, letting your head be the last to rise, and then stopping here again in this standing position. As we inhale, we'll lift our arms above our head, looking at our fingers. As we exhale, we'll bend over to one side, connecting with our breath here. Noticing our weight shift from one foot to the other. Inhaling back through center. Exhaling to the opposite side. Connecting with our breath as we notice the adjustments that our body's made. As we inhale back through center, we'll exhale and swan dive forward. Staying just for a moment here, taking a breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. And then inhaling to slowly roll up, stacking one vertebrae on top of the next, letting your head be the last to rise. Reconnecting with your breath, looking back down at your feet, giving your fingers a little wiggle. And from here, we're gonna bring our hands to our hips, and we're going to take a wide stance first. And then we're gonna turn our right foot so that our right foot's pointing out, our right heel is pointing right into the arch of our left foot. And then we're gonna bring a bend into our right knee so that our right knee is about above our right ankle. Bringing our attention to our hips, we wanna square our hips to the side in line with our back foot, and then we'll slowly float our arms out and look over our right fingertips, connecting with our breath here in Warrior Two. Breathing in through our nose and out through our nose. On our next exhale, we're gonna reach forward, just reaching, trying to connect with our breath here. Noticing the way our body's keeping us in that center, even though it's challenged. As we inhale, we'll come back through center. And as we exhale, we're gonna reach backward, reaching. Look at your hand if you want. And then inhale back through center. Spending another breath or two, breathing in through your nose and out through your nose in Warrior Two. As we exhale, we'll bring our hands to our hips. We'll turn our feet back in so that our feet are parallel to each other. And this time we're gonna flip our left foot out so that our left heel points into our right back arch. Bringing a bend into our left knee and then squaring our hips to the side. Once again, we'll float our arms out to a T as we look over our left fingertips and connect with our breath in Warrior Two. On our next exhale, we're gonna reach forward, reaching and reaching, just noticing our body and the challenge that it is to our body to move out of our way here, moving forward. As we inhale, we'll come back to center. On our next exhale, we're gonna reach backwards, reaching and reaching. You can look at your hands if you'd like. And then coming back to center. Looking back over your right fingertips, just reconnecting with your breath here. Notice if maybe it's easier being here in center once you've reached forward and back. As we exhale, we'll bring our hands down to our hips and we'll turn our feet in so that our feet are parallel to each other. And then just taking a step in, we're going to do a tree pose before we get started. So you can move your phone somewhere, you can walk for a second and grab a tree, or grab a chair. I'm just getting this to show how really you can do tree pose at any level. So I grab something to hang on to. You can just move to a piece of furniture, hang on to a mantle if you need to. You don't have to. And we're going to start on our right foot, looking down, just really grounding our foot into the mat, and then taking our left foot. I start with my hands on my heels, taking our left foot and kickstanding it up against our right. This is the first form of tree pose, so you can stay right here. And if you'd like to get some assistance from your chair at this point, that's perfectly fine. If you'd like, you can bring your foot up to your calf. Again, you might grab your chair, you might not, up to you. And if you want to bring your foot up to your upper thigh, just anywhere except your knee. It helps to find a little spot to look at, something that doesn't move, to help keep your balance. And you can, when you're moving your foot to your inner thigh, having something to hold on to is good practice. You can bring your hands to heart center. You can grow your tree. Maybe just doing anything, just safely challenging yourself to find that challenge to your balance here in tree pose, just so you can feel your muscles working to keep you upright. Really appreciate them. Appreciate what our bodies do to help us find balance. And as we exhale, we'll bring our hands through heart center. We'll release our foot to the floor and then shake out our right leg. Once again, we'll recenter ourselves in mountain pose before we take tree on the other side. So this time we're going to really ground our left foot into the floor or the mat. We'll take our right foot and we'll kickstand our right foot up against our left. We can keep our hands on our hips. This is the first form of tree pose, so you can stay right here. You can bring your foot to your calf. If you need assistance, feel free to grab something. You can bring your foot to your upper thigh. Again, that's there if you need it, if you want it. You can bring your hands to heart center. Again, we're focusing on a point on the wall ahead of us, helping us find our balance, staying connected to our breath. Maybe bringing your arms up overhead. All different forms of the same pose. All opportunities to appreciate the balance that our bodies bring us. Woo. Bringing our hands back down, our feet back down. We'll shake out our left foot. And then from here, we're just gonna take a seat on the floor. Just to close our practice, move the tree out of the way. I'll bring our scales back just because they're so pretty. And as we close our eyes, once again, beginning to reflect on all of the gifts that Ruth Bader Ginsburg gave to the world during her time here, her fight for justice. It's just been carried on to us. Just using this practice to help us find justice, find balance in our lives, fight for justice in the world, making the scales even. As we practice Ahimsa, practice not harming, even though it's challenging. Just relying on our balance, relying on our own deliberation to do the right thing, just as she did, over and over and over again. Thank you for taking this time to practice with me today. I hope you will join me next week for Voting Yogis. We will be featuring Christina Hale for Congress. So I'm really excited about that, and I hope you all have a good night. Bye.